Overcoming overwhelm.
So, Jan, that sounds really quite interesting. So, what are we actually talking about overcoming overwhelm in this episode?
Well, for women 50 and beyond, this is a time of major life transitions, including major body transitions. And understanding your individual stressors and learning how to deal more effectively with them can improve the quality of your life now and in the future.
Excellent. So let's get specific for a second here. Give me like the top three things that we're going to hopefully give people as a takeaway from this episode.
Well, we're just going to talk about what are some of your stressors, some of the common ones and some of the ones that may be unique just to you. How do you individually react to stress, and what can you do to deal more effectively with stress, because it's always going to be there.
Excellent. That sounds like we're going to have a lot of interesting stuff to talk about here today. So, besides, how do you know what my stressors are? You're going to talk about my specific stressors? Okay, no, just kidding. So what are some of these stressors that you work with your clients when you're working with women over 50? What do you end up focusing on in terms of stressors like this?
Well, they go into two categories. Usually they're emotional and they can be financial. And a lot of times the transitions that are happening at this time of our lives are pretty big. Our parents may be failing, or they may have passed recently. Our friends, just this week, it's a second girlfriend of mine, whose husband died at a very early age. And that not only affects, the girlfriends group, but it also, it's another reminder of my own mortality and, need to get going. And that's a stress, like what should I be doing instead of what I'm doing. And children, experienced a wedding this month also, and also one of my kids had a meltdown. Nothing serious, but as a mom, it sure does affect you.
Sure.
And we are downsizing, or our relationships have changed, so we need a smaller place, or just the opposite, a good stressor. We found somebody we want to be with in partnership, and it's not always easy. And if you take all of those things, which I'm sure by now it probably depressed you, you also look at the things that are energizing and invigorating in your life. Starting a new career, I mentioned, finding a new partner, new relationships, new friends. Maybe even new interests and careers, but it's that balance that you have.
And trying to find that balance, right?
Yeah, find that balance and still stay out of overwhelm.
Mm-hmm. Well, so in a word, we're really talking about change. Change
Absolutely.
is like the big theme here, and there's so many. That is quite a list, and a lot of them were good, right? There's quote unquote negative changes, but they're all potentially stressful because you have to adapt to every one of these changes. So that kind of flows into your second takeaway here, which is how do people react to that stress or respond to it, and so what do you do to help people with that? Or what are you see in the people that you're working with there?
Well, the first thing is to really be aware of how you react to stress. Have you laid down a lot of expectations around some kind of event or activity or future, and when those don't go the way that you thought they should do you worry about them, which is basing everything on your past? Worry is just thinking, oh my goodness, everything that just happens is going to keep happening. Or do you go into anxiety, which seems to be my favorite place, a fear of the future? Like, oh my goodness, I have all of these things happening. Am I going to be able to have it all done by the time I need to get it done? And I think what you need to realize is what is actually in your control and what's not.
Exactly. And I've always found that when I'm feeling that overwhelm, I think you're hitting the nail on the head. It's almost like if you're looking at a timeline, there's the point in time where you are, and then there's moving forward in time and back in time. And the farther you're getting from the present moment focus, the more you're getting overwhelmed.
Yeah.
And it's logical if you could actually catch yourself and think about it, because, of course, the farther you move from the present moment, the less control you have, because you only have control over what you're going to choose to do right now. So it's great to look ahead and make plans. It's great to look back and learn from history, but if you don't bring it back to here and now, then you feel
Yes.
overwhelmed and out of control, right? So,
Exactly. And I think that brings us to the next part of it. How do you deal more effectively with stress?
yeah.
I know this is so overworked, but it's to stay in the present moment. And I think you just described what that looks like.
Yeah.
And I described, with worry and anxiety, that's what it feels like when you're not right here, right now. So if you catch yourself feeling worried or anxious, you know you are not in the present moment. So if I get worried about my finances in 2 years, don't laugh, it's serious. I do. I have to remember, or I do this little check. How is everything right now? It's good. It's really good. And then it brings me back to the present moment.
Yep.
Some of the things you can do to deal more effectively with that anxiety, that stress, that worry, is to, one of the things is to exercise. That's very helpful. We're going to talk about it later, but it's to get more restful sleep so that you're recharged, so that you don't feel tired. Other things you can do is to take a look at what you actually have to do. Sit down and write it out. What you actually have to do and what would be nice to do. And just focus on that. Well, it's important and it's urgent, and focus on those.
Right, so prioritizing effectively, planning effectively, making sure you've broken down big projects into smaller tasks that are actually doable, because if you leave them at that higher level, then your brain gets overwhelmed, because you can't actually do a big project. You can only do one little piece of it at a time. What's that old joke about how do you eat an elephant? I mean, one spoonful at a time, right? You can't eat an elephant.
One bite at a time, and I think the action of writing it down now takes it out of your head and overwhelm onto a page, so that you can sort of look at it more objectively.
Well, and the other powerful thing about all of the examples you just gave is that they're all things that, whether you focus on or not, bring you back to the present moment, because you can only do them there. One of the cool things about exercise is that it gets you physically into your body, moving through space, and that's very present focused. Writing things down. You can only write things down in the present moment. You can plan your future, but the writing is happening here and now and giving you that feeling of control. So that's what it's all about. Excellent. Well, this has been great stuff, Jan. So we've covered, what are some of the stressors that people are going through, and all of these incredible moments of change that are really coalescing around this time of life. And of course that can easily lead you to feel overwhelmed. Looking then at how people are reacting to it and maybe shifting to responding and having a little bit more control, and then looking at how to deal with that stress more effectively. I also want to say this is part one of a 4-part series that we're doing that is really all about how to go from exhausted to energized, and clearly getting rid of this feeling of being overwhelmed is a big part of that. If you can get proactive, if you can get in control, then you're going to get more energized, right?
Yes.
So I'm looking forward to the other 3 parts of this series. Hopefully you are too, as you're watching this right now. If you want to make sure that you don't miss any of these upcoming episodes, well, right below this video, you're going to see a little banner that says that you can get Jan's Amazon.com ebook absolutely free. When you click that banner right now to get that free ebook, it's also going to subscribe you to Jan's follow-up list, and it's going to give you notification of each of the upcoming episodes so that you don't miss any. So if you want to get from exhausted to energized, if you want to go beyond just dealing with overwhelm, then stay tuned for the next episode. Mailing list right now and get Jan's free ebook. So Jan, this has been great stuff. I'm looking forward to our next episode. So until we speak again, take care.
Thanks for joining us.